Hey everybody, it's Will with Schedulefly, and I'm delighted today to have Ray Villaman on the phone. Ray's out in Lake Tahoe, and he owns multiple restaurants out in that area, and he's just a long, successful veteran in the restaurant business. He's been everything from CEO of a large chain, senior management in some chains. He's owned his own restaurants for quite some time. He's been the executive director of the California Restaurant Association. He's just really put a mark on the restaurant business and has done very well and is well respected and well known and well liked by so many folks in the industry, and was kind enough to take some time today to talk to us. So Ray, thank you very much for doing that, man.
Absolutely. Glad to join you.
So tell me about a little bit about your career in the business. When did you get started in the business initially?
Gosh, back in the mid-'80s, getting through college, the typical work in a restaurant and make some tips and work your way through college. So my first job was with a concept called Bennigan's out of Houston, Texas.
Oh, yeah. For sure. I remember Bennigan's. Yeah. Okay. So you've, as I was mentioning in my intro, you've done a lot of things, and currently you own, how many restaurants do you own in the Tahoe area?
So we've got 4 full-service restaurants with a 5th licensed concept.
Okay. Gotcha. And I want to talk a little bit about, independent restaurants, and you've had the fortunate career to have experience in both independents and chains. And how, by the way, when did you start your first restaurant? It was a solo independent restaurant.
Let's see. Back in, I became a partner with a group back in '96.
Okay.
But I went solo in 2000. I think was the first year I opened up a restaurant on my own.
Why did you want to do that?
I'd opened up at that point over 50 restaurants for the chains, and I felt like I was adequately prepared to do it on my own versus doing it for somebody else. So I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I thought the timing was right.
What did you bring from your experience with chains to your own restaurant, and then what's been different that you've learned as an independent owner that you had not learned previously in your experience in chains?
Yeah, good question. So I get asked, what are the danger points in opening up a restaurant all the time. I point to 4 areas that I think are critical, and I'll just rattle them off. But everybody knows location will make or break a concept. But the other 3, I absolutely learned how to be a better site selector working for the chains. They've got immense resources and data to choose from, and so location was a key learning for me. The other 3 areas are what type of concept you want to open is critical to your success. So, for example, let's say in Durham there are 25 pizza restaurants within a 3-mile radius of where you're looking to open up a restaurant, and you decide you want to open up a pizza restaurant because you love pizza. It doesn't quite make any sense from a market demand standpoint. So you want to analyze a market and determine what's the greatest demand for that area. So what's missing? Are there no Thai restaurants, for example, and is that target customer looking for Thai food? So concept is critical, how to develop a concept. I pretty much had to go in depth to learn on my own. The chains pretty much stick with their one concept.
Yeah.
But when you go on your own, you got to learn how to develop a concept. And then management goes without saying, experience is everything. And the change provided me with a wealth of experiences in dealing with hourly employees and management and all levels of the organization. And that has proven to be extremely valuable going on my own. Most restaurants fail because a ton of people jump into this business thinking it's easy, and they're shocked by all the variables that need to be managed. And they go into it without systems as well. And then the last area is capital. People fall short of capital. They can't sustain their payroll. That I learned on my own, but the change definitely helped. But so those are the basic breakdown of critical areas. So 2 out of the 4, the change helped me extremely, and concept and capital management I kind of had to learn on my own.
Concept and let me ask, capital management is do people not? Do they have unrealistic business plans? Do they just not know they need X number of months of operating capital, or like where do you find the gap in that?
Yeah, exactly. They go into it with the wrong business plan expectations. So I'm constantly reviewing plans and trying to explain, what is the average construction cost per square foot in a particular region, for example. If the real estate market is hot and contractors are extremely busy, the price of your build out is going up, right? But a lot of people have no concept of, what does a 3,500 square foot restaurant build out? What is the estimate you should be projecting? And how you go about finding that information. They just don't have any idea. And then they spend too much money on the build out, which leaves little to nothing for payroll down the road to build the business or advertising or any of the other multitude of expenses.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Those are good points and really good advice, man. What about when you talk about concept and you say, okay, so maybe there's not a Thai restaurant in an area, and does this demographic want Thai? Like, how do you know that? How do you know if that demographic wants Thai or whatever the concept might be?
So there's a number of things that the chains do really well. Is they analyze their target customer to the nth degree. As an independent operator, I typically have friends in the area. I have other resources like my credit card companies that do my processing. My vendors are a critical resource. So, for example, the last concept I opened up was a Mexican concept. The first thing we did was analyze the market. So I plotted out every restaurant in our town, say within 1, 3, and 5 mile radiuses. And it starts to paint a picture as you start to plot out existing restaurants. There's, 22 pizza restaurants. There's 9 Asian concepts. There's 5 sushi restaurants. There's 25 burger joints. And it starts to paint a picture of what's existing. And so you're looking for holes in that picture of what's missing. So then you determine, okay, there's 3 or 4 possible concepts that don't exist or are not well served. So you narrow down those concepts. But for me, the way we decided on Mexican was we defined who our customer was. We live in a highly tourist area, ski resorts, that sort of thing. And we know from data that over 65% come from the Bay Area, San Francisco, San Jose, the peninsula. And so we know where our customers coming from. We certainly have an international mix, and then we have predominant California, Nevada, and then you got the rest of the U.S. But we wanted to narrow down, and get to know who the customer was, what they were interested in. So then we did surveys to these exact customers and the locals, and the feedback that we get from the surveys is critical. Through this process, we were able to nail down that a Mexican concept would do very well.
Love it. Really good, strategic, well thought out process. See, this is a lot of stuff that there's just so much thought and planning, and just to those two aspects you just talked about, capital and concept. So do you find that a lot of people are not taking the time to do, like going around and plotting out restaurants and things like, are people not taking the really important, critical time that you took and that you see successful owners take? Is that something you're seeing, that they just maybe they don't know to do that, or don't think they need to do that?
I think that's a good point. There's two things that we can take away that we notice is those individuals that enter the restaurant industry that they don't know what they don't know. So it never even occurred to them. They never even thought of it. That's why I'm always recommending to first-time restaurateurs that they work their network of well-known veteran restaurateurs. They get advisors. They really find a mentor to walk them through these types of processes. So the other part that we see from entrepreneurs is they discount it. Oh, I know who my customer is. Well, do you really know? I know you think, you a lot of times they say, oh, my customer is 35 to 60. And I'm not going after the young kids, or vice versa. But how do you know that? Do you have fact-based data that says that? Well, I can't find any. So if you dig deep enough, you can always find it.
Gotcha. Okay. That's really good advice, Ray. Let me ask you this. You were in management in some large organizations for a while. Did your leadership or management style change when you began running independent restaurants?
Absolutely. When I was growing up in the industry, oftentimes my management style would reflect a chain company's culture or management style of my immediate boss, because we tend to mirror, reflect, our boss's tendencies. And, back in the 90s, the general school of thought for management and leadership was, the customer is always right. The customer comes first. And after leaving the chains and going on my own, that completely flipped. So oftentimes I'll ask new restaurateurs when they're asking me questions, who's the most important person in your operation, in your business? And they'll say, we say the customer usually. But it's starting to get circulated enough with a lot of media and press that your employees are the most important. And the reason your employees are the most important is because that's where the magic or the execution has to begin, has to start. So real simple, if you have an engaged team, well-trained, well-respected, recognized, and rewarded, that's going to reflect onto the customer. Versus the old school was, you better do a good job or I'm going to replace you. That just encouraged your team members to resent and have a lot of animosity for where they worked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, it's a really smart way to look at it. I do see that a lot more these days. And it's interesting because I see that, and I see that style and that philosophy in that type of management, Ray. But what I'm also hearing a lot, I'm curious your thoughts on this, because it can vary in different parts of the country and so forth. But a lot of people are saying they're really struggling now to, to find good people and keep good people. It seems to be getting harder and harder. Is that something you all are experiencing?
Very difficult labor market. It's absolutely true. Even here in California, with minimum wage going up to $15 an hour, it's getting scary. That moves the pay rate for many industries when your minimum wage goes up like that. It really requires an operator to build a reputation of what I call of striving to become an employer of choice. So let's say, Will, you have kids and, they want to come out to Tahoe after they graduate college and do some ski bum years in the mountains. That's typically what we get up here. When they arrive in a town, I want them to ask, they typically ask around their friends, people they meet, hey, where's a good restaurant to work? Which restaurants are busiest? Who enjoys going to work, right? So you got to build that reputation that when people come into town looking for work, you're on the radar. You're easily recognized as one of the best spots to work. That's a critical component for us because word of mouth and referrals by our internal employees have been huge. And so there's not one solution that fits all that is going to work for recruiting. You've got to do it all.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that seems to be something that's just labor market's just becoming more and more challenging. What are the? I mean, you've got a really good, broad perspective on the business, Ray. I know you've been involved in a lot of private equity and just lots of different aspects of the business. So, what are some of the other? What things excite you about the hospitality business now, and what things concern you?
I'm excited by the evolution of concepts starting to really shift the dynamic in this industry. As of 10 years ago, full service restaurants were the majority of concepts that existed. That is now flipped to fast casual, quick serve concepts. So what we're seeing is the Chipotle style of restaurants exploding in all categories of concepts. So, you've got Asian, you've got burgers, you've got pizza, you've got anything you can think of, sandwiches, obviously, that are more fast casual. They feel like a full service restaurant, but you have to order from a cashier. So watching the industry evolve and change is very exciting to me because you're always looking for the next big winning concept. What's concerning me is the compression on margins. It's already tough to make money in this business. Now with wage pressures and a tightening labor market, it just compounds the challenge. I'm very involved in our political process out here in California, so we constantly are lobbying our politicians. And my biggest concern is the lack of business knowledge that our politicians do not have, and how their decisions affect and regulate our industry.
Yeah, wages, hours they can work, when they can't. Yeah, it really is becoming a complicated puzzle, isn't it?
Scheduling restrictions is a bill that's up in the assembly right now. They want to force restaurants in all industries to post a schedule 3 weeks in advance. And if you make any changes to it, you get fined. So it's just getting ridiculous.
Yeah, even if the employees are requesting the change, huh?
Exactly, and this industry is well known for its flexibility.
Is that really gonna? Does that have a chance of getting passed? Right? That just makes no sense. I mean, it's totally the opposite of the way the industry operates, for good reason for the employees.
But yeah, so it's coming from organized labor. It's coming from the job security, right?
Yeah.
They're saying that single moms, single parents have to be guaranteed their shift to be able to rely on a steady income. And they're not looking at it from an industry to industry impact. Just like minimum wage, our servers make $25-30 an hour, yet they're getting a minimum wage increase of $1 every year until it hits $15 an hour. So they're rewarding the people who don't need it. And tipped employees, we don't have tip credit in California. So that's another example of how they're not thinking through their regulations, their bills that they're passing.
Good grief.
I don't want to get too political.
No, I understand. Well, I mean, that's a really important issue that would affect tens of thousands. Gosh, in California, probably hundreds of thousands of people, and their livelihood and the way they work and the way they're scheduled. And well, that's interesting. Well, good luck.
Thanks. Are you hearing from your operators that similar concerns, or what are they looking for? What are they searching for, Will, in terms of answer solutions?
Well, I mean, I don't. It's a good question. I mean, I haven't heard a lot about that. I mean, it seems like California and New York tend to be ahead of the curve with that kind of stuff. But I assume everybody else ultimately end up following over time. So I feel like there was some stuff that happened in New York, but it mainly affected chains and franchise organizations. Although I think there's more coming down the pike. But I'm not sure. I haven't heard a ton about it, to be honest with you.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that it's not a very relevant issue, but I don't know, that maybe just people were just, we just haven't had an opportunity to talk to enough folks yet about it.
Got it. Yeah, it's tough political environment, in my opinion.
I can imagine. Well, so talk a little bit about, and you have four. Yours are they all different concepts, right? All of your restaurants.
They're all named differently, but basically 3 are pizzerias and 1 is a Mexican concept.
3 pizzerias and 1 Mexican. Okay, got it. So when's do you have any that you plan to open in the near future?
I've been trying to put on the brakes for some time, but on average, I open up a restaurant, 1 every 2 years on average. If they don't work out the way that the results that I'm looking for, I'll sell them or I'll keep them. But I'm looking at one, maybe 2 concepts in the next 2 years.
Okay, gotcha. Do you?
I'm very, very patient.
You're very patient. Why is that? What have you learned about the value of patience in this business?
So there's certain scenarios that will increase your likelihood of success when opening up a restaurant. And one of those scenarios is when a landlord or a developer comes knocking on my door asking for me to go into their property. And the reason that's important is they recognize you as, a market leader. They love your concept, love the way you operate. They feel like your business model is going to enhance their center. There's a number of reasons why they come courting. And those are the most favorable. And oftentimes when I'm patient and when waiting for others to call on us, that's where we get our best deals. That's where we get our best TI dollars. That's where we can structure the best terms.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's a fortunate place to be. And on that note, when you tell me a little bit about lease negotiation, ownership versus owning your building versus leasing, and just what are some of the conversations you have with people about that, and some of the important points that come with that?
Yeah. Yes, the majority of folks obviously have to lease. It really comes down to access to capital. If you have the capital, I recommend you try to purchase your building. That's always the most favorable situation you could get yourself into if you have the funds. But in general, very large, 80% plus of restaurateurs are leasing because of the capital requirements. So lease negotiating becomes critical. And a lot of times when people ask for help on their lease, it's too late. They've already signed it, and I can only do so much at that point to help them. But I can't emphasize enough, find a great lawyer that has negotiated or looked over hundreds, if not thousands, of leases.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have any general rules of thumb that you think are important in terms of extensions or things on the front end you want to make sure that you think through? I know that would come through an experienced lawyer, but I'm just curious, just for folks listening, what are some of the important things?
There's basics that I'm assuming we're probably speaking to a lot of new restaurant owners. Is that right, Will? Or
yeah, that's right.
Okay, so the common things that I run into is people do not ask the landlord for capital assistance. In the lease world, it's referred to as tenant inducements or tenant improvements. For example, landlords in our industry will provide capital towards the build-out of a restaurant in certain areas. A lot of first-time restaurateurs have no idea that they need to ask the landlord for capital assistance. And so when you don't ask for it, you're not going to get it.
Yeah.
In a deal I did, 8 years ago, I opened up 2 restaurants at a resort, and we got $1 million from the landlord towards our build-out. And a lot of people are like, how is that possible? How did you get that, Ray? And why would they do that? The strongest argument that a restaurateur has with the landlord, once the restaurant operator knows the landlord wants them pretty badly, and they know they're going to be an asset to that development. The strongest argument you can give is, look, I'm going to put in $500,000-$600,000 into my project. I view my landlord as a partner because we're tied together for 25 plus years, potentially. Let's approach this as a partnership. And you, Mr. Landlord, own the property, so I need you to build out the bathrooms, the AC, the plumbing, electrical support, because that is infrastructure that I will not be taking with me when my lease is expired.
Right.
And so it's very hard to counter that argument. And it's a very quick and easy way to determine how badly your landlord wants you or views your operation. And so negotiating those dollars up front are critical towards your model. And then, negotiating the right term. I typically go for a base term with 3 to 4, 5-year options. I want to tie up the property for 25, 30 years if I can.
25, 30 years. Well, that's a great point. Very well said about negotiating. And if they are the right fit, then it helps you a ton, helps your business, and truly does form a partnership. But then the flip side of that is if they walk from that and walk quickly, then, hey, it wasn't the right partner in the first place, right? Which goes back to your point about being patient and getting the right location with the right landlord, being such a key part of that. You can't be myopic with that, right? You can't want to start fast and ignore that stuff because your short-sightedness, may lead to early success, but long term, you're probably setting yourself up for a tough situation.
I've negotiated leases for 6 months to a year.
Yeah,
just the lease.
Okay, gotcha.
So there's no rush. The landlord will make you believe there's a rush, and there usually is on their end. But if I'm going to be in a project for 25 years, what is 6 months to negotiate a lease?
Right. Excellent point. Okay. So the other thing I people talk about, the labor market, and people are also talking a lot about, constantly working to build better relationships, stronger relationships with regular customers who are the foundation of the business. Yours may be a little different. I don't know, with so much tourism, but although I'm sure you have quite a few regular customers at your places. But what do you all do to try to enhance those relationships and, keep more people coming back more often that know you well?
Do I have to give away my trade secrets?
Well, I'm sure you do a great job with marketing. I'm curious to drill down a little bit, Ray, is like how much of that is the social media or marketing tools that you use? How much of it is the food, quality of the food, and the consistency of that and the delivery of that, and how much of that is just the people themselves that build, that work for you, that build those relationships?
Got it. So this is a huge area of debate amongst a lot of restaurant folks, and I've been, studying this for my whole career. But you're gonna laugh at this because I know you're a marketing guy, but I spend zero money on advertising and marketing.
Oh, no. I think that's great. I mean, look, we don't either. Pretty much. I mean, we send out some hats and stuff, but we've tried to do it very the same way. We rely more on the word of mouth and taking care of our customers, right, and making sure our product's really good. So no, I think that's fantastic. I think that's a great way to do it if you're able to creatively figure out how to do this. And you don't have to give me the specifics, but if you're not doing that, then what are y'all doing really well?
Yeah, I was joking earlier. I'll give you all my secrets, because it's the execution that people underestimate. You got to execute. So first and foremost is establishing a winning culture within your organization. So what I mean by that is, who's your favorite football team, Will?
The Panthers.
Okay, so Carolina Panthers, their success is determined by what, in your opinion? What's the most critical thing that they need to focus on to be a championship team?
That's a great question.
So things like...
Go ahead.
things like their practices, right? The coach isn't out there saying, oh, you've done a little too many sprints. You look like you guys are getting tired. Why don't you take a rest, right?
Yeah.
The coach pushes the bar. So it starts with leadership and the standards and the commitment to defining those areas that you're going to be great at, right?
Right.
So putting your people in the right places, it's training the hell out of them so that they are extremely strong when it comes time to take care of the guest. And then it's establishing, what are we striving for? Why are we working so hard? What's the purpose of this restaurant? And for me, it comes down to our success affects our community and it affects each other. So we're trying to be a championship restaurant group. We're trying to win our market. And the way we're going to measure that is the satisfaction of our team members. And a lot of times you can look at that through turnover rates. We look at today on social media, Yelp, TripAdvisor, all these review sites are very big out here in California. And we have one of our restaurants has 3,500 Yelp reviews, and it's at 4.5 stars. And so we define that as winning, right? We're winning. We are a championship restaurant group based on some of these variables. So we start with our culture that gets indoctrinated into the staff. The staff buys into it. They train hard, they work hard, and they respect our leadership team. They respect management. And management strives to reward and recognize on a frequent basis. And when we do that internally, the guests are constantly asking us, wow, your team members smile so much. Like, well, how do you get them to smile? And we're like, we don't get them to do anything, right? They're doing it naturally. So it all comes across in the final execution of product and the guest experience. So for us, it's a very intangible of how we go about doing this, but it's very strategic as well. So to complement our internal culture and our goals and our standards, we also try to love on our community as much as possible. So we do a lot of fundraising support. We support a lot of fundraising events. We live in a ski resort community, so there's tons of hotels nearby. We're always taking pizzas over to the concierge front desk. We're always hosting parties for, folks that are front-facing to the local community and to the tourists. So we give away a lot of product, and it puts a lot of smiles on people's faces. And we're just well recognized in the community as big supporters of where we live. I would say that's our biggest push.
Gotcha. Love it, man. Ray, I could genuinely talk to you all day. I have 1,000 other questions I'd like to ask you, but also want to respect your time and the time that I had asked you to allot for this. So I'm going to let you roll, but I really, really appreciate the opportunity, appreciate all the time and energy and passion that you've invested into the industry for so many years. I know a lot of people do, and just thankful to serve y'all and appreciate the relationship, and really thank you very much for taking the time to do this. It was extraordinarily educational. Anybody that listens will get a ton out of this.
Well, we are likewise grateful for the technology that you guys provide us, and we've had a long history together. I remember when you guys first got started, and it's great. It helps our team members. It helps our business run that much smoother. So likewise, I appreciate you guys, Will, and I'm glad to pitch in my 2 cents here.
All right, my man. Well, thank you. Take care. I'll let you get back to it. Thank you very much for saying that. That was very kind of you. And we will, I'm sure, talk again soon. But have a great day and great rest of the week. You guys get after it. Do some good stuff out there.
Sounds good. And I know you got the storm coming your way, so be safe and batten down the hatches. And we'll talk soon.
All right, man. Thank you, Ray, very much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right,
sure.
take care.
Take care.